humans aren't born out of laying around on their asses. We've been born out of conquering a world. We're the dominant species. We built all this. We're powerful, and we're beautiful, and we're ready to build the next level of civilization in God's plan. But you must stop bowing to those who want to make you a victim. You must become the victor. If you love God and you want to build a pro-human future, then you are an enemy of the New World Order and Satanism. They want us shut down because we have the Spirit. I'm jacked into the source. I know the secret, and I want to see you empowered. But you have to believe in yourself first. This is the truth, and everyone knows it.
Ladies and gentlemen, unless you recognize the evil of Democrats in the West, but specifically in America, this story is not going to make any sense to you. Because the Democrats have been really pushing this story about this El Salvadorian illegal MS-13 gang member, and that this guy is the new civil rights icon. This is the guy that they're going to free from an El Salvadorian prison and return to the United States. Even though he is an illegal criminal, even though he is an El Salvadorian, no, they're going to make sure that this guy is returned to the United States, and they're going to do everything they can to make it happen. I'm so pleased. I'm so pleased that the left is expending what little political capital they have, what little political power they have, to further cement what psychopathic subhuman freaks they are. That they want to release foreign criminals from prison so that they can bring them to the United States. That's what they've been doing for years. But now with Trump in charge, they have to actually go that extra step of releasing the prisoners from jails in foreign countries themselves. Well, I don't think this is going to get very far. I don't think it's going to be very successful, but Democrats are planning a trip to El Salvador. Yeah. Crazy.
The man who has been sent to a foreign prison to be tortured and may already be dead. At least that's the narrative that the corporate press is giving. In reality, Democrats are planning a trip to fly to El Salvador to try and rescue a Salvadoran man from his own country's jail for crimes he's guilty of in his own country. And it's because he was in this country illegally. There's a deportation order. And under the Alien Enemies Act, the Trump administration removed him. So again, to clarify, you know the story. A man from El Salvador illegally entered the United States, was not granted asylum, but he was given a temporary stay. He was deported. The administration said it was an administrative error because he did have I believe he had 2 orders for removal. 2 different courts determined he was a gang member in MS-13, and he was here illegally, but there was a stay over threats of safety to his life. Well, he has been deported. He is a Salvadoran citizen in El Salvador, where he will likely stay. President Nayib Bukele says he's not going to let loose a terrorist in his own country so that the U.S. can bring him back to the U.S. And this has resulted in Democrat outrage. They're lying about what's going on. This has become their principal issue of the week, I guess.
No, it's absolutely true. This has become their principled thing of the week. But there's no principle to it at all. Other than these people are principally against law and order, they're principally against the rule of law. These people were radio silent as our laws were being broken by the Biden administration and unfettered illegal immigration was pouring into this country. These people had nothing to say. In fact, if you criticized the Biden administration, if you said we should secure the borders, they would tell you tough luck. They would basically, they thumb their nose at you. You're not in power, we're in power, we get to decide. Well, guess what? You're no longer in power. And thankfully, we have a president who's willing to take action to keep Americans safe. But the left doesn't care about Americans. They don't care about the harm that befalls Americans because they're anti-American. This is the party of pro-terrorism, pro-crime, and pro-pedophilia. These people are morally irredeemable, reprehensible, disgusting. These are villains. They look at an innocent woman who's, viciously, brutally violated and killed by an illegal, and they think, oh, well, I hope that illegal has due process. I really hope that illegal, I hope they don't go too hard on him. These people are animals. There's no way that you can give these people on the left the benefit of the doubt anymore. Not even an inch, not a centimeter. You have to start thinking about them as what they are, and it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. These are our enemies. These are our enemies. The media is the enemy of the people. They want unfettered illegal immigration. They want crime to be high in areas that are not theirs so that they can get clicks and views and that they can cover it and they can virtue signal. And to make Trump look bad. They want bad things to happen to other people so that they can feel more privileged, they can feel more special, so they can create an underclass that they can rule over. I mean, no matter how you look at it, everything that these people advocate for and believe in is disgusting. And anyone of sound mind and conscience is going to be against this.
Their cause celebrate that we must rescue this innocent man. Let me just stress, Democrats are trying to rescue a terrorist member of MS-13 from prison to bring to the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we're going to go through the court documents, and we'll break this down for you and why they're falsely framing and misrepresenting what's actually going on. And for the life of me, I can't figure out why, other than it's a cult, I guess.
No, it is a cult. That is absolutely true. It is part of a cult. But these people are anti-American. They like when they see Americans get hurt. You ever wonder why, despite all the, word for women empowerment, why they don't have a word to say about the women who were violated by, these MS-13 gang members, Trende Aragua? They don't have anything to say about Lake and Riley. They don't even stand and clap for her during Trump's speech. They don't have a word to say in the defense of somebody like Lake and Riley, who wasn't like some staunch Republican. She was just a woman who was violated, or attempted to be violated by an illegal alien who had been deported a bunch of times and came back, and then decided, well, she's fighting back too much. I'm gonna beat her to death with this rock. They stand for the criminal in that case. They fight for the criminal. They fight for the person who is against allowing this woman to live her life unmolested and, alive. That's who they stand for. That's who they believe deserves the due process. Me, I believe she deserves the due process as an American citizen, that the American government should protect her and send this illegal criminal scumbag to the sun. Like, El Salvador is a nice medium between me wanting to send them to the sun and these people on the left wanting to just immediately release them and let them back onto the street. I think El Salvador is a nice compromise because he's from El Salvador. So the El Salvadorian government determined that this guy is a criminal. They wanted him back. Our government didn't want him because they figured out he was a criminal and a member of MS-13. The only ones that want him back are the people who hate this country, who despise the American people, who want to see them hurt, who want to see them suffer, because they're socialists, they're communists, they're counter-revolutionaries, they're, these LARPers in Hassan's chat, they're these anti-human, anti-American, deranged, subhuman, bottom-feeding pieces of garbage that embody the worst of humanity, and they think this is somehow a civil rights issue, that this terrorist deserves due process, like he got his due process. 2 courts ruled that he should be deported. I mean, this entire thing is such it's such a revelation about how genuinely evil the left is. And here's my hope. And here's my statement. If Democrats want to self-deport themselves to an El Salvadorian prison, I'm all for it. I hope I hope Bukele does not give them an inch of leeway. If they violate the laws the way that they violate the laws here, these Democrats, wanting to break stuff, burn stuff down, I hope he arrests them. I do. I hope he arrests them and throw them in jail. Give them harsh sentences. These people are the worst of the worst. And yet they have cheerleaders in the Democrat Party. Cheerleaders on the left. No, you're just some Maryland man.
So I'll talk about that. But there are a handful of other stories, and one that I do want to talk about that's been going viral was, we want you guys on there. Now what the argument is, I believe Stephen Miller's arguing this. The Alien Enemies Act, once this organization was deemed a terrorist organization, supersedes the judge's stay, and we can remove alien invaders. And the Supreme Court agreed Trump can remove them. They agreed no one can force the president to engage in foreign policy actions, but in the event Abrego Garcia is able to be returned to the U.S., Trump must facilitate that. What that means, I don't know. But Democrats have decided to die on this hill, as it were. And is this the best they got? Is the only issue they have?
It's a big issue. I don't know if it's the best issue they got, but like if the president can say, because we're in a state of emergency since 2001, this group of people is a foreign terrorist organization now because they have ties to foreign country that we're at war with, or that we're going to be at war with, then they can just deport them because they're a terrorist. Because they said they were a terrorist.
It doesn't really reflect what happened, did it?
He said MS-13 is a terrorist organization. Then that was their grounds to throw out a guy who had to stay.
Thank you, Ian. Let me take you home on this one. So I appreciate your response. I think you're actually referring to the NDAA 2012 indefinite detention provision that was signed into law by Barack Obama, which stated exactly as you said, that if someone was part of Al-Qaeda, involved in September 11th, or an enemy and waging war against the United States, they could be indefinitely renditioned in black sites anywhere in the world, so if they wanted it. I believe that got repealed in 2024, so only last year. Now back to the main story we're talking about, where a guy who had a deportation order was deported.
Yeah,
you were saying?
Oh, the guy that had to stay on his deportation order was deported?
The guy with 2 deportation orders who was here illegally and a member of a criminal gang, MS-13, who was deported mistakenly, is in the custody of his own country for which he committed crimes, is now in his own prison, and we have no authority to get him out of that prison. So, yes.
So, what were you going to say, Phil?
Well, that was my understanding. The guy that we were talking about was an illegal alien. So the fact that he's deported is perfectly consistent with the law.
Well, if you
being that he was associated with MS-13, that's why Trump calls him a terrorist. But that's kind of notwithstanding the fact that he's here illegally, right? If he's an illegal alien and he's not, he's come here illegally, whatever the context, ship him home.
Well, if he has a stay on his deportation, you got to wait.
Why?
Because there's a stay on his deportation.
Yeah, but what was
Is there a context in which something may supersede a stay from a judge?
Always
Crime.
war.
But they'd have to prove that there had been a crime.
Or a terrorist designation under the Alien Enemies Act, for which the Supreme Court ruled that he does have the authority to deport people under?
Potentially. Here's my issue with it, though. Deportation's one thing, but they didn't just deport him. They sent him to a prison with no due process, where I assume he's not going to have a trial there either, correct?
Oh, that's a matter.
So this dumb bimbo doesn't understand due process or what it means. He did have due process. And by the way, this is a buzzword that people throw around, due process. I don't think that if you are an illegal in our country that you deserve due process. Meaning that if you are somebody that violated our laws, and it's been proven that you're a member of MS-13, because the El Salvadorian government has determined that. The government where you're from is saying that you've committed these crimes and we want you back. Yeah, I don't think that the U.S. should be like, oh, well, we need to do a review ourselves. Just no, they're an El Salvadorian prison. This word, due process, I think that it is being overused to protect evil. And I think that it is important to understand that this is going to be a screen. The left is going to do what they always do. They're going to try to use your empathy against you. And my answer to that is no. Too many actually innocent people have died or been hurt. No, these people have to go. They have to go back. All of them. Yeah, no. You're not going to find the same sort of, benevolence that you used to find because for 4 years you allowed unfettered illegal immigration. You did your open borders policy. You fought with Texas, which tried to secure the border. And now we have a crisis. And so the way that you deal with a crisis is not the way that you deal with any normal situation. This is a problem that the left has caused. And now it's up to Trump to fix the problem that the left created. And the way he does that is a way that some people may get a little queasy in their stomach, but no. No, these are invaders. These are people that are part of a gang that does unspeakable things to people. And now they're going back. You gotta go back.
Matter for a foreign country. I mean, we're not going to invade China and try and force China to
But
release
why
people
are
from
we
their
putting
prisons.
people in prison? Why can't we
didn't.
just
El
deport
Salvador
them?
did.
So they're charging him with crimes?
In El Salvador, if you are a member of MS-13, you go to jail. It's a crime.
Okay.
And that's how Nayib Bukele started. He started rounding up all the gang members. They made it illegal, and they started throwing everybody in prison. The criticism there was that innocent people were getting wrapped up in it. But that's a matter for a foreign country. Now, I do think there's concerns over when we deport people, and we can, what El Salvador does after the fact is of concern. But at the same time, the question as it pertains to this is a Salvadoran man is in a Salvadoran jail for crimes in El Salvador. Next question, I guess. So the concern there is if we are just deporting anybody because we can deport them and Trump is sending them to El Salvador and then El Salvador is putting them in prison, there's a chain there where I have concerns with it.
Yeah.
The challenge, of course, however, is the due process afforded to illegal immigrants in this country is, are you here legally or not? No, then you leave. The Supreme Court ruled that these people are all entitled to habeas hearings, justifying whether or not they are to be held. That's the point. Okay. Are you here illegally? You are? Then we can deport you. If El Salvador, after the fact, imprisons them, the challenge then is the foreign policy action between the U.S. and El Salvador, not due process in the United States, for which that's negotiating power between Trump and El Salvador. So I do have concerns over if people... Here's the challenge, I suppose. Conservatives are going to say, we don't care. You came into this country illegally, that's your problem. And I believe Jack Posobiec mentioned that it was a deterrent. You come to this country illegally, maybe you'll be on the plane to El Salvador. I'm not a fan of making examples of people like that.
I am.
In this specific capacity, the man who was here did have a stay. If it is true, as they initially argued, that he was mistakenly deported because I believe he had 2 removal orders and no asylum, the question then becomes, how do you have a stay on deportation without being granted asylum? What is the cause by which a judge can grant an indefinite stay on deportation? I'd argue that's unconstitutional.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was a rogue activist judge that put a stay on it because they don't like Trump's policies. They don't like Republicans getting tough on crime. They think that they're being somehow benevolent with something like this, and they put innocent people at risk. The guy is where he belongs. So my position is this. I generally don't think that, you should ignore the courts. But there are certain activist rulings that I do think that Trump and the administration should ignore. And it's for the good of the American people. These judges are not acting in the best interest of the American people. I think that's pretty obvious. These judges and these activists, they are acting in the best interest of their political party, their cult, and these criminal terrorist aliens. That's who they're acting in the best interest of.
A judge doesn't have the authority to give de facto citizenship to an illegal immigrant here illegally with deportation orders. Yeah. So what we're actually dealing with is a constitutional crisis by which the judiciary de facto is tried to give an individual citizenship or second-class citizenship, which to me is alarming. And then the only real argument becomes, was Trump acting in a heavy-handed manner by sending him back to El Salvador, where El Salvador is going to put him in prison?
I don't think that they're what, like you said, what El Salvador does with any of the people that go back to El Salvador, that's their problem. That's a domestic issue for that country. The United States has millions of illegal immigrants that have come in, or that had come in the previous 4 years during the during the Biden administration. President Biden himself said, we want to see a surge. We want to see people to surge the border for if you're seeking asylum. The administration allowed all kinds of breaking of the rules when it comes to the asylum claims. You shouldn't come to the United States through South America if you're looking for asylum, because Mexico's safe and there are multiple countries that these people could have stopped in. So right off the bat, it's breaking the law. The idea that we have to give everybody that's here that claimed asylum a hearing, I reject that, because they came here under false pretenses by an illegal method. They're supposed to come to ports of entry, and they didn't. They would just cross the border, and then DHS would pick them up, or the Border Patrol would pick them up. If they didn't come here and go to an actual port of entry, if they got picked up, beat it. I don't care. They don't all get. They shouldn't all get.
Hurting actual asylum seekers and
Pardon
doing
me?
that hurts the actual people in line.
It does, but the lawlessness prior to that hurts America more. So there will be times where we will send people that are actually seeking asylum away when they may have, had they gone through the actual proper channels, when they would have been granted asylum, but because they didn't, see you later.
And I'm with you up until a point. And with him being from El Salvador, I think that makes this case less of a huge deal, because we are sending him back to a country where he's from. But if we're sending people who are not from that country back to this country to be put in prison indefinitely, versus just simply deporting them, that's where my issue
I have
comes in.
no, I don't care where they go to. They just need to go back to their country of origin. I'm not saying that we should send them to El Salvador.
So
send them to wherever they're from.
The issue is Venezuela has refused to take back criminal gang members from Venezuela. So Tren de Aragua, for instance. So Trump said, then we'll send them to El Salvador. They're not Americans. The due process they get is an immigration court habeas hearing. Are you here legally or not? Can we hold you? We can. Deportation.
And see, I guess my concern around that is, where is the proof that they are terrorists? Where is the proof that they have actually committed crimes? And if they have, then send them. I don't care, right? But there has to be some kind of due process in place to make sure that we're not falsely identifying people or saying, you've got this tattoo.
What is due process?
Due process would be actual evidence, fact finding, presenting evidence before a judge.
We don't have resources.
No. What's for what reason do we want that kind of hearing?
Because we don't want to put innocent people in jail indefinitely with no hope of ever getting.
But we're not. El Salvador is.
But we're paying El Salvador to run these prisons. So by proxy, we are.
And so the question at
this woman's an idiot. I mean, just an absolute pap smear of an idea. I mean, it's just shockingly retarded. Oh boy. Yeah. This sort of overly emotional, brain dead take is something that you would see on the left. And it is something that I think is a problem, because unfortunately, people like her are not able to really see this issue as what it is. They go on, these poor, innocent, illegal criminals. Oh, I mean, it would be really bad if they didn't get their due process. They need a fact-finding thing. They need to basically bring in all the detectives to make sure that they're actually not an illegal. No, that is absolutely absurd. That is absolutely absurd. And Tom Homan made a good point. He said, if we were to do it the way that these liberals would do it, the way she's suggesting, we'd be here for, the next 100, 200 years. No, get these people the hell out of our country. Get these people the hell out of our country. It's as simple as that. Get them out. Get them up, get them out.
At hand, I suppose, is right. There is a challenge in that this is our foreign policy action. This is what Trump expects to happen, but it's this nebulous circumstance where Trump says they're not Americans, so they got to go. And if they can't go home because Venezuela won't take them, El Salvador will. Mm-hmm. Where do we send them? if they won't be returned to if the Venezuela will not accept these deportations.
I'm fine with Gitmo. I'm perfectly fine with Gitmo.
Guantanamo Bay costs a lot of money for the American taxpayer and is limited in space.
Fair enough, but
so first they get their due process, and the due process is literally the habeas hearing in which you're a citizen or not. Are you eligible to be here? No. Okay. So we've determined that these people have removal orders. That's the basis by which Trump went to go about deporting these individuals. They had orders for removal. If we can't send them back to Venezuela, where do we send them?
Send them anywhere else. Send them to Mexico. Send them to Canada. I mean,
Mexico
just get them out of our country. But do they have to go to a prison? That's where it just feels very shaky to me.
Do you think El Salvador wants to accept criminals from Venezuela freely to walk about their streets?
I think they want to accept our dollars, and we'll do whatever we tell them to.
Do you think El Salvador?
Where does Tim Pool find these dumb bimbos? El Salvador's going to do whatever we tell them? No, they're not. No, they absolutely are not just going to take criminals and put them on their streets. They're going to put them straight to jail. As they should. Like, I think Tim is a genius for picking somebody like her to come on the show. Especially for a topic like this. I don't know if he intended this, but God, it's brilliant. It really is brilliant to bring a low IQ bimbo like this to just blurt out all of the leftist talking points, all of the most dumb, poorly thought out, just ill-informed garbage. Tim, yeah, I gotta take my hat off to you. That was a brilliant stroke of genius. And then to bring on Phil Labonte, to bring him on as the counter, I think that was also, he's a regular on the show, but this sort of contrast, I think, is really, really quite interesting. Anyway, if you want to watch the rest of it, you can go watch Temple. It's on X. It's on all sorts of platforms. But anyway, yeah, the left has lied about this issue. They're trying to sensationalize it. They're trying to turn it into some kind of civil rights issue. It's sort of the same thing with George Floyd. It's like the people on the left take criminals. They take, the worst of the worst. And they try to lionize them as heroes. And it's really quite repulsive. These illegal criminal aliens have done real harm to Americans. And they continue to do real harm to Americans. Now, people like Donald Trump and myself and many others say that the solution is to get these people out, to deport them, to send them to where they need to go. And if their country of origin won't take them, my solution would be fly over and push them out with a parachute. It's like, what do you mean you're not going to take back your citizen? Yes, you are. Yeah, absolutely. We would be pushing people out with parachutes. The parachutes, you have to make sure that they work, but yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they're going to be taking back their citizens. But in the event that, okay, well, we can't take back the citizens, then yeah, sending them to an El Salvadorian prison is fine with me. It's like, what are we doing here? America should be in the habit of defending Americans, American citizens. But it seems like all of the money, all of the energy, all of the time goes into defending criminal illegal aliens. Instead of helping our own citizens, instead of helping our own veterans, it's always this sort of thing. Well, we have to help the criminals. We have to help the criminals. Well, guess what? We're not doing that anymore. The criminals should go to insane asylums, mental institutions, and prisons. And innocent people should be able to live their life freely without the risk of some deranged psychopath that is a result of a Democrat policy being on the street and harassing and hurting them. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's my thought on this issue. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next time.